Hello everyone and welcome back to Russell's Movie Reviews, the show where I review stuff that's mostly pretty good and maybe one of the best movies of all time, or a film that absolutely sucks and should remain in the depths of hell. Now last time in our Gamera marathon we took a look at Gamera vs. Jiger, which came out in 1970, and today we're going to review and discuss technically the final film in the Showa-Era Gamera films, Gamera vs. Zigra, released in 1971. Um, Now, I honestly felt like that I was gonna have out of the original seven films that I was gonna have the least amount of enjoyment with this film because from what I've heard from a lot of people was that this was like by this film it's really started to become apparent that they're running out of steam, they're running out of ideas, so it's not a bad film. It's just not particularly enjoyable for them to go and watch it again. Unlike say like the previous few films. Um, and so I kind of just went in blank slate, and I was honestly kind of like with Jiger. I was honestly surprised with how kind of good this was. Um, and I'm just gonna spoil this right now. I think this is a little bit better than Jiger. Uh, Certainly better than Girin, but I don't think it's as good as the uh, the first three, which I think by this point is a given. Um, but yeah, this was released on July 17th of 1971 with a budget of again 35 million, like the previous film, and um, yeah, like I said, this is technically the last film in the Showa era series because this is technically the last film in that was released like a year after the previous film because the next film and the final film that we're going to be discussing, Gamera Super Monster, came out 9 years later. So this was really like the tail end of like the classic Gamera era. Um, which is kind of ironic because again, this is kind of like the last. It is technically the last Showa era Gamera film because technically by the 80s that's technically classified as the Heisei era, but this was 1980, so I guess it would technically count, but that's a review for later. But without further ado, let's get on to the plot. So a Japanese moon base is suddenly attacked by an alien spaceship without warning. Back on Earth, two young kids, along with their parents, see the spaceship descending into the ocean. They go to investigate, but are soon captured and brought on board the spaceship. Inside the ship, they find a human like woman, and she reveals that she is a part of an alien race called Zigrons. Zigrans? Zigrons. She then tells her prisoners about the planet, Zigra's history, and its great scientific advances, which unfortunately was the result, which resulted in their planet's destruction. So they started searching for a new planet, uh, and they obviously tried to go to the moon. Clearly did not find one, but Zigras kind of spotted eyes on Earth. The woman contacts authorities on Earth and orders them to surrender, or she'll kill her prisoners. Tom declares her insane and, in a fit of rage, sends the two men into a hypnotic state. The two kids manage to escape, and it is up to them, as well as the government, to try and stop the Zigra lady, as well as Zigra, and contact Gamera to save the day. Now, um, like I said, I was honestly kind of surprised with how good this film was, and it really kind of came down to the fact of, you know, it's kind of honestly, I was kind of surprised by the Kennys in this film because Um, before when we had two Kennys, it was usually one boy, or no, two boys, and then if there was ever like a girl, uh, she was always like a kind of like a side character. Whereas in this film, the two Kennys are one male and one female. So I thought that was actually kind of a cool idea. Yeah, granted, they do scream Gamera a lot, but it kind of comes down to their interactions with everyone else around them. You know, because they don't. I, I can't really describe it, but they aren't bad. I think honestly the worst Kenny's out of the entire series was probably in either Virus or Girin. I think Girin was probably the worst Kenny's out of the series, but yeah, these kids aren't bad. Um, uh, Actually, the adult actors play. I mean, I don't really talk about the supporting the cast that much unless it's Kenny's, because they don't really play a major. I mean, yeah, they do kind of play major roles, but you kind of just forget about their names. After all, you're just like, oh, that's scientist guy, or that's government leader, or like military leader guy, and like, oh, that's one concerned parent, or that's one kid's concerned parents, and there's the other ones. Kind of stuff like that. But these ones, I mean, granted, I didn't remember the names, but I remembered a lot more about what these characters did than the previous films, because they actually, the two men that are basically uh, uh, hypnotized by the lady later do get um, they do later get they kind of like broken free of the control, and they that's kind of where we kind of figure out where, because a lot of people are getting into these hypnotic trances, and the people are trying, like, okay, well, what the hell do we do? And then they do that, and they like realize, oh shit, it's like making noises into a transmit. I think it's a transceiver. That's what they call it. Basically, if they make noises into that kind of, to the people uh, who are hypnotized, it makes this like ear shattering scream, or like screech, that kind of gets them out of the control. And so they use it on the lady, because I think she's about to feed them to the whales. Because yes, this film does take place at Japanese SeaWorld, so get to shove the product placement as much as possible. And yeah, so she's about to feed them to the whales, and then they start kind of making noises into the transceiver. She kind of falls over, and then oh yeah, so I should probably talk about a little bit of the beginning first before I mention this, but yeah, so this lady is she's obviously on the spaceship. She tells them about Zigra's plan. And then once she gets onto Earth, she realizes, like, um maybe walking around with this weird ass outfit isn't the best idea, because then people are gonna give me strange looks, like, why the hell are you wearing that? So she has to change her outfit, and the first people that she comes across is girls in bikinis, because I think they just came back from swimming, and then they hear the evacuation notice on the radio. So they're like, "Well, shit, we got to get out of here." And then they come across the alien lady. She hypnotizes them, and then steals one of the girls' bikinis, so that she kind of fits in a little bit better, I guess. But I don't get it. I gotta admit, though, she's looking damn fine in that bikini, but that's besides the point. Um, she later gets a car to pull over, which is ironically going to the same place that she's trying to go to. So it's like, well, shit, convenience much? Um, and then she spots another girl wearing normal clothes. She hypnotizes her and steals her clothes, and it starts chasing them the around the theme park. It's technically about like a 7 minute chase, but the first part of it is like a 5 minute chase. Um, and then the chase technically, quote unquote, ends when the kids, or the Kennys, trap the alien girl inside a Ferris wheel, and then they run off, and then they get tired, like, oh, she's never gonna stop like chasing us. Um, and then I think about half an hour goes by, and by this point, the parents, the two males who were on the spaceship and were hypnotized, get broken free from that, and then they get a. I think they either get a call or they realize that uh, oh yeah, this is this random girl running around the facility. So they run over to where the whales are. And why'd you? Is it? It's some kind of. I know it isn't dolphins. But yeah, I think it's some kind of like whale, species, and they see the girl trying to throw or trying to drag the two kids over to where the whales are. So I'm assuming she could feed them to the whales because her objective once she gets onto Earth or onto land is to kill the two kids because they escaped earlier and they kind of know the secrets. But granted, by this point, basically everyone knows. But that's besides the point. So yeah, she's trying to kill them, and then they start, talking to the transceiver, and she gets broken. She faints basically, and when everyone runs over to her and tries to question her, she's like, "Oh, where am I?" And then that's when they realize that this she isn't a alien lady. She came from Earth, and was just well the explanation that she gives is that she was the person that was driving the moon buggy when the moon base was attacked at the beginning, because you see a shot of the moon buggy trying to drive away, and then you see like the spaceship like grab or like throw like basically a transporter beam onto the buggy, and they disappear. So you assume that it's either it's been eviscerated or it was captured by the vessel. And so yeah, so she said that once I was brought on, Zigra hypnotized me, and then I just started, working for him. And then after that, I don't remember anything. So yeah, that's like, oh, so technically, the Zigra race is just only like with the Zigra monster that we see later on in the film. It's not humanoids. It's what it either hypnotizes to do its dirty work, or no, and it's food, because we later find out that because actually no, yeah, no, later on, a little bit later on, we figure out that Zigra makes an announcement saying, "Hey, if you surrender right now, you guys will I will return the prisoners, and um, you will all be spared for the time being until I get hungry and I start feeding. Until I, start getting hungry, then you guys are my meat, basically." So they were like, "Oh shit, what do we do now?" And then finally, because technically Gamera showed up, did technically in the first act, but then kind of just gets silent throughout a good chunk of the middle of the film, and then shows up at the end for the end fight. Which I want to talk about Zigra himself, because Zigra is actually, I'll admit, he's actually kind of a pretty cool monster. It's basically, because the previous few, like, because, I mean, because you couldn't really describe what Baragon was. Gauss was some kind of, like, vampire bat creature. Uh, Virus was some kind of squid creature with with basically a spike for a head. Jiren was just had a saw, or yeah, just like a blade on his head. Jiger was like some kind of, it basically looked like some kind of like prehistoric dinosaur. And then Zigra is just this, basically it looks like a metal shark that has like it's all reflective, and then like if you like get hit by it, like on one like the scabs on the top, then yeah, it's gonna cut you. So it's like, oh shit, like that's actually kind of cool. But I can kind of see why people wouldn't really like him, like this monster, because it kind of does show that they were running out of ideas somewhat. So I guess I can't see that, but even then, I still actually like this monster because it's actually kind of a cool monster, and I think it actually looks creative. And then the fight, because there's technically two fights between Gamera and Zigra. I think the first fight is in either the end of the first act or the beginning of the second act. Um, and then Gamera basically get. I wasn't really paying attention by this point, so I just like looked down at my notepad, looked up, and then all of a sudden he was just in the ocean, and he like his eyes kind of like turn off, so he's like, you're like, wait, what the fuck just happened? And then they kind of they try to revive him, and then that plan fails because Zigra interrupts them, and then the two kids and the two parents, the two male parents, get kind of phase into this like frozen state. Not technically frozen, but they get like frozen in time. Um, and then Gamera gets shocked by lightning, wakes up, saves them from basically drowning to death, and then while they're reviving the people from the submarine kind of thing, he fights Zigra. Um, and I thought that was actually kind of a cool set of sequences throughout the film. The final fight, if I have to be completely honest, is one of the weaker final fights in a Gamera film. Because at least all the other ones, even if I didn't really like the story that much, the end fights were actually at least somewhat memorable. This one barely like he first kind of fights him underwater, then takes Zigra up to the sand, starts playing his back like it's a keyboard, and then I think, and then yeah, after that he just backs away and then basically roasts him, and he literally sets him on fire, and that's it. Zigra's dead. So it's just like, okay, that was memorable, but it wasn't that fun to watch. It was just kind of just mediocre at best, which for a Gamera film, by this point, it really starts to show that they were just kind of running out of ideas. So, it's kind of like the opposite situation for me with Gamera versus Girin, where I thought that film overall, throughout basically the majority of the film, was just plain boring and bad, and then the final fight was actually, enjoyable. Where this film, most of the film was enjoyable, and then the final fight was just kind of disappointing. Um, but that kind of, I'd rather have a majority of the film be good than one final fight scene at the end, and the rest of the film is just garbage. So, I do gotta give this film credit for that. Um, and yeah, because this is probably one of the main points that people bring up when they ever talk about this film is yeah, because this is the only Gamera film that talks about the whole pollution situation. Because I think by this point, pollution in Japan was getting real bad. So they kind of, made movies to kind of spread that, kind of message around, like stop polluting and stuff like that. And ironically, this film shared the same year as Godzilla versus Hedorah, which is the Godzilla film that kind of was kind of like the same thing, like stop pollution, shit like that. Where this film, like it brings it up a few times, and at the end it says like basically doesn't tell the audience directly, but one of the parents comes up to like the two kids like, hey, make sure you don't pollute and stuff like that. Um, Godzilla vs. Hedorah is one weird fucking movie. And I would like to cover it when I you know eventually get all the Godzilla films and do a whole marathon of all of them, because basically it just feels the Godzilla versus Hedorah. Not to go into it too much, but it basically makes you feel like that you're on an acid trip. It's so weird, and there's plenty of reviews out there on YouTube that show how trippy this film is, and it's just like, what the fuck, dude. So yeah. So if you want to get into this sort of, if you want to watch, I, I'm only bringing this up, the whole Godzilla uh, thing, because, like I said, both this film and Godzilla vs. Hedorah came out the same year. But, and this is a very, very big but, this film beats beat Godzilla versus Hedra by a week. Let me say that again. It beat Godzilla versus Hedra by a week. So, hey, gotta give them credit for that. They beat a Godzilla film to the box office. Um, Unfortunately, I think this is one of the films that I think this is probably I so far with doing research on this film, I haven't been able to figure out uh box office totals for all of these films so far, but I'm assuming that this one is probably the one of the weaker Gamera films to do at the box office because, like I said, it was a 9-year hiatus, and then he came back with Gamera Super Monster, that failed, and then he only made a return 15 years later with Gamera Guardian of the Universe from in '95. So, you know, um, which, um, I mean, I can see why this film might have failed at the box office because again, it's kind of showing that this series is running out of steam, running out of ideas. So, which doesn't make it a bad film. Which, well, might as well mention my other fun fact that I have is that Zigra, in its full shark mode, resembles a goblin shark, which is a rare species of deep sea shark, uh, found mostly around Japan. So that's kind of a cool thing that it's kind of based off of a real creature while adding, kind of like a Gamera twist on it. But yeah, final thoughts on Gamera versus Zigra. As I mentioned at the beginning, I was fairly surprised with how good this film is. Um, it's better. It's slightly better in my opinion than Gamera versus Jiger. Certainly better than Gamera versus Giran and Virus. Well, it's better than Virus. Certainly better than Giran. Slightly better than Jiger, but not as good as the original three. So I'm gonna give this film a C plus. Um, so yeah. Hope you guys enjoyed this episode of Russell's Movie Reviews. Stay tuned. Make sure to click over here to click on my beautiful face to go to my channel, or click down there at my username, and make sure to hit the subscribe button and hit that bell icon to get notified when future videos are coming out. And click over here to watch the previous 2 Gamera films. And stay tuned for this Friday where we're going to be ending off the first Gamera marathon with Gamera Super Monster from 19... Oh, fucking Christ. Alright. Well, stay tuned for this Friday, guys, for Gamera Super Monster from 1980. And I'm gonna explain a little bit. I'm gonna explain more into depth about this, but after Gamera Super Monster, I'm gonna take a couple weeks break from making YouTube videos because I just need to relax after watching basically 8 films in a row over a span of like 2.5 weeks. And then the next review will be announced at the end of Friday's video. But anyway, stay tuned for Friday, guys, for Gamera Super Monster from 1980. Live long and prosper. Out.